It's Monday, December 27th, and this is now on HNN.
They just went to Plan B and Plan C because they were determined to go somewhere.
Continued holiday travel frustration as the Omicron-driven flight cancellations and delays mount.
This is about personal responsibility.
Here at home, amid skyrocketing COVID case counts, there's a new debate emerging over restrictions.
Yeah, this is going back.
These stories plus how to avoid the hassle when making holiday returns. We got the tips coming up on This Is Now. Let's get started with this breaking news. Hawaii Island Mayor Mitch Roth has tested positive for COVID-19 over the Christmas weekend. His office just making the confirmation a short time ago. He got tested after an immediate household member confirmed an infection. His office says he's experiencing mild symptoms. Roth is fully vaccinated and got his booster shot earlier this month. His household is also said to be fully vaccinated. Roth was scheduled to be on vacation this weekend, but he'll remain at home to quarantine. Roth's positive diagnosis comes on the heels of U.S. Representative Kai Kahele confirming he tested positive for COVID-19 as well, as the state experiences an ongoing surge in new infections. The State Department of Health reports 1,384 new cases today and no additional fatalities. It comes one day after the state saw a record 2,205 new infections on Sunday. For a complete breakdown, island by island, of all today's new infections, just head to your HNN digital platforms. Good afternoon, everyone. You got Jonathan here in the HNN Digital Center, and just seconds ago, more breaking news coming in from CNN. The CDC has shortened the isolation guidance for Americans who test positive for COVID-19 from 10 days to 5 days if they do not have symptoms. We'll be following that story all afternoon long here at HNN. Want to take you live outside now. Check out the Reef Runway, because a lot of people are talking about this. More cancellations today disrupting holiday travel. Yeah, that's right. Thousands of more flights canceled again today after days of much of the same. CBS travel editor had a talk with our CBS reporter, Skylar Henry, about just this. Here's what they had to say.
So I actually spent some time at some of the airports. A lot of people frustrated, some saying that, hey, this is all you have to do is just try to pack as much patience as possible. What are the best options for stranded passengers right now?
Well, it really depends on where they're stranded. So many of them were stranded at their originating airports, they just gave up and went home. The real problem is in the delay factor. All those thousands of flights that are delayed, which then turn into cancellations at your intermediate connecting airport. Those are the folks who have very few options left because the original flight's gone. The available connecting flights may not be available because they're full. So they're stuck there, and chances are their holiday is over. They'll be coming home. In the old days, of course, when you had flights of under 400 miles and you had those kind of cancellations, people could run out, rent a car, make new friends with their seatmates on the plane, all chip in and drive. That's not going to happen because there are no rental cars available, and the rental cars that are available are exorbitantly priced.
So do we think that this is a holiday surge thing? I mean, how long could these cancellations last?
Well, let me give you some good news. In about 5 days, we're going to see a huge plummet in the number of passengers, airfares, hotel room availabilities. It's going to change radically, as it always does after the first of the year. So if you take a look, I'll give you an example. My airfare on January 6th from New York to Los Angeles is $63. My airfare today would be over to $700. So they know this. It's seasonal. That's pre-pandemic and now as well. So once the airlines can stabilize their schedule for the next 5 days, then for the first quarter of 2022, it should be relatively okay.
Do you think the CDC will change the quarantine guidelines for airline staff and crew members? We saw it in Jonathan's piece in an effort to accommodate some of those staffing shortages.
Well, that healthcare rule basically set the precedent. I think they will. Delta Airlines has already appealed to the CDC to do that, to lower it from 10 days to 5 days on the quarantine. And remember, we're only talking about breakthrough cases, and the anecdotal evidence indicates that they're all mild cases, and there's no need for hospitalization or even worse. So just based on that evidence alone, that's one of the reasons why the CDC agreed to that 10 to 5 day switch. I think that may happen in the airline business as well.
That's interesting there. All right, so we're going into year 3 of this. COVID clearly isn't going anywhere anytime soon. I know a lot of people thought that they'd be able to perhaps travel abroad or travel elsewhere without the concerns of the pandemic. Is there something that people should keep in mind as they travel come into 2022?
Well, what we've noticed over the last 2 weeks, we talked about people canceling their trips. Well, they did cancel their trips, but they didn't cancel their travels. They just went to plan B and plan C because they were determined to go somewhere. So going into 2022, there's something called trip stacking. It's where people are actually making 2 and 3 separate paid reservations on flights to destinations that they know if it gets canceled, they'll get their money back, they'll get a full refund. They're protecting themselves, they're hedging. And that's what's going to get them to travel in 2022, that kind of insurance.
Well, hospitals across the state say they're bracing for a possible rise in hospitalizations. Our Sammy Salina has more from Kapiolani Medical Center.
Hospitals already have that game plan in place for when cases and hospitalizations rise. Just as other facilities have done at Hawaii Pacific Health, they have an updated visitor policy. Just like we've seen with other airlines, their staff is being affected by the spread, with people calling out because they're sick or worried about exposure from their daily lives. They are urging everyone to get vaccinated and to get that booster, and they have seen an increase in people coming in for their shots.
We know that people who have been boosted are less likely to get severe illness. You might still get it and you might still get sick, but you will not have the severe illness that some people who have Omicron and are not vaccinated are experiencing.
And pediatricians are emphasizing shots for children as well, who have a very low vaccination rate. About 30% have initiated their doses between the ages of 5 to 11.
We really wanted to protect the younger children in school, and while their disease may be mild, they can have rare complications. They may have severe illnesses if they have underlying conditions. So really, this is an important step for this pandemic.
Health experts tell me that they are very worried about the upcoming New Year's Eve gatherings because people may have been exposed during Christmas. They want folks to continue to be careful. Sammy Solina, Hawaii News Now.
With this recent surge, some medical experts in the state are calling for new restrictions. Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi says hospitals are operating at manageable levels. He says that he won't be adding restrictions at this time. With vaccines widely available, he says that he's leaving it up to people's individual judgment to make the right call about being safe.
I think right now what I'm in favor of is people protecting themselves. As we said the other day, I'm going to continue on this theme. This is about personal responsibility, not about government telling people what they can or cannot do. And quite honestly, I think Christmas week would have been the worst time of all to try to impose restrictions because everybody had so much in play. I see people wearing masks. I think people are being very prudent. I've seen people not show up for events. For the big events, we had the football game was canceled. That was one of the things we talked about on Thursday. Even the basketball team pulled out, and even then they were only getting 1,200 people in a 10,000-seat arena. So I think people are going to self-select on what makes them uncomfortable. They know the level of protection. But our goal right now is to get through this, get to the other side, and hopefully it doesn't impact us with the degree of severity that some people might like to think.
Let's keep talking about that concern over any potential rise in hospitalizations. I want to play out what Dr. Anthony Fauci had to say when he was asked about it on CNN today.
I fully expect that it will turn around. I hope it turns around as sharply as what we've seen in South Africa. I went over the data with our South African colleagues a day or two ago, and the increase up, particularly in Gauteng province, turned around rapidly and came down. And we thought it was maybe something that was aberrant about that particular province, but now we're starting to see it in all the different provinces. So I hope we peak and come down quickly. The other thing that's going on there, as you probably know, is that it looks like the degree of severity of the disease is considerably less than they experienced with Delta. We're seeing inklings of that now in the United States. The UK is also seeing that. So I do hope that we do have the net effect is a diminution in the degree of severity. But the sheer volume of cases that we're seeing now, yesterday we had 214,000 cases. Even with a diminution in severity, we still could have a surge on hospitals, particularly among the unvaccinated, which we're really worried about.
And because of the big spike in cases we're seeing, Hawaii jury trials are being postponed once again. They just restarted back in October after being delayed because of the Delta surge. Now the trials won't be back to in person until the end of February. This only affects jury trials, keep that in mind. All other court proceedings, even those conducted by Zoom, will be held as scheduled. New today, the president has been speaking with a group of the nation's governors. The president said his administration is working quickly to respond to the increased number of cases. Biden said he is ordering FEMA to set up pop-up testing sites in populated high-demand areas. He also said those with insurance will soon get reimbursed through that insurance provider for rapid test purchases.
I know the lines have gotten very long in some states. That's why I ordered FEMA to set up pop-up sites in places with high demand to shorten the wait. We stood up 6 new sites in New York City in 5 days, and there are more coming. For over-the-counter at-home tests, as I said, there were none when we took office, none. Now we have 8 on the market, and just 3 days ago, another test was cleared. We went from no over-the-counter tests in January to 46 million in October, 100 million in November, and almost 200 million in December. But it's not enough. It's clearly not enough. If we'd known, we would have gone harder, quicker if we could have. Because steps we have to take to increase the number of authorized tests, we're now able to purchase 500 million at-home rapid tests to be sent to the American people for free when they request it. And we're going to continue to use the Defense Production Act to produce as many tests as possible. And starting in 2 weeks, private insurance will reimburse you for the cost of at-home tests. We're providing access to free tests for folks who don't have insurance. But we have to do more. We have to do better, and we will.
Now to this important update. This could be a significant week in the Navy's water crisis. A decision on the future of the Red Hill fuel tanks could be handed down in the coming days. The Navy is challenging the state health department's emergency order to remove fuel from its 20 underground tanks. You'll recall a hearing was held last week, and an official overseeing the case is expected to issue a judgment soon. That will determine if the health department can move forward with its emergency order.
It's going to be a little bit cloudy and a little bit windy today, with winds running 15 to 20 miles an hour. And there will be a few scattered showers, mainly for those Windward and Mauka neighbors, but we are not expecting a washout until maybe the latter part of the week. So for today, as far as the surf goes, we're going to see a building swell late in the day for north and west shores, and that one could be a good swell. Should be even bigger by tomorrow. Not a whole lot happening in town, although box jellyfish will be swimming in for the next couple of days. And for the next couple of days, we'll have these breezy winds. There will be some decent cloud cover as well, so don't expect really sunny skies. And then on Thursday, that disturbance builds in with more clouds, more showers, shifting winds. We could even see some spots of heavy rain all the way through the early part of next year.
So you didn't get exactly what you wanted from Santa under the tree, and now you're facing the hassle of those holiday returns. Vicky Nguyen has some returning 101 to share with us.
The great news here, most retailers have pretty relaxed return policies, but there are some steps you need to take ahead of time to make sure you get the maximum refund. First, the rush to get presents under the tree, and now the rush to return some of those gifts for cash or store credit. Analysts predict $120 billion worth of products will be returned this holiday season, up from the previous record of $115 billion last year. The increase spurred by online shopping. So maybe you get that gift that you're not so keen on? Okay, the first thing to do Make sure you don't remove it from the original packaging. Even though stores are pretty generous with their return policies these days, they're a lot more likely to give you a cash refund rather than store credit if they can resell the item. Yeah, this is going back.
Also, make sure you don't accidentally throw away the gift receipt with your wrapping paper. No receipt might mean no refund.
If you do lose the receipt, your options are to regift the item or have that awkward conversation with the person who gave you the gift to see if they have a receipt. If not, you can bring it back to the store. Most will give you a store credit, but be prepared, some won't.
For in-person returns,
make sure that you bring your ID. Most stores will ask for it even if you didn't buy the item. They're trying to cut down on people who abuse return policies. And guys, when you're inside the store, make sure you're nice to the employee. Oftentimes, they have discretion on whether or not to accept that return.
It's also the right thing to do. But what if you don't want to brave those crowds?
Many retailers will cover the cost of a return, but you got to print out the label at home and then make sure that you package up that item carefully and either schedule a pickup or take it directly to the shipper. Perhaps even easier, you can take the item back to the physical storefront. No labels or boxes required.
Amazon accepts returns at Amazon Go, Amazon Books, Whole Foods, and even Kohl's locations. Most other retailers, including Walmart, Target, Best Buy, and Apple, will also accept online returns in person at their stores. With a bigger push to shop early, many retailers extended their return windows. Apple has a strict 14-day return policy, but holiday purchases can be returned through January 8th. Amazon's 30-day policy is being replaced by a January 31st holiday return window. Bed Bath & Beyond, Walmart, Home Depot, and Lowe's have 90-day return policies. Kohl's, 180 days. And Costco will let you return products at any time, except for electronics, which have a 90-day return window.
If it's footwear or clothing, just make sure you don't wear that item out until you know that you want to keep it. Stores do have the right to refuse a refund if the items look used or they're heavily soiled. A good rule of thumb, if it's in a state that you wouldn't buy it in, your refund will probably be rejected. However, if the product is damaged or defective, the retailer will almost always give you a refund or at least let you exchange it.
It's easier than ever to return your unwanted gifts, especially if you're prepared with these simple tips.
Okay, so I know re-gifting can be a social no-no, but consider it, especially if a store won't take back an item that's been opened. By one estimate, about 5 billion pounds worth of returned items end up in landfills. So even though some stores might take back certain things, it doesn't mean they can actually be resold. So consider a donation or that good old re-gifting. It is better for the environment. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Vicky. Good advice there. Good advice there. Let's talk about what the internet is talking about, and pretty much everyone who went to the movies this weekend. Spider-Man, yep, swinging into new heights. The new film brought in $1 billion worldwide during the pandemic. The first movie to do so. The superhero adventure reached the milestone in just 12 days after being released. All right, let's get to today's good news, and we're talking Hollywood some more. There's a hometown lady who's making it big in the world of hair and makeup there. Here's Billy V with more on that.
We're getting a chance to talk to someone who is makeup and hair for the stars, for the actors that are in the motion pictures and TV series that you see. Kekipanya Vasquez Tamali'i, where are you from? You're from Hawaii originally?
Born and raised from Hawaii, here
Nice.
on Oahu, Laie, Hawaii.
Nice. What school you went to?
Kamehameha, actually.
Talk about some of the people that you've been able to have contact with. Kind of just name drop for me for a while.
I'm not much of a name dropper, but Carrie Ann Moss, which is our Trinity, Sybil Shepherd, Henry Golding.
Wow.
Actually, the President of the United States, because I was working on CNN for a little bit. So much more, but it's just, and then of course Magnum PI. That's the reason why I'm here, is because I always wanted to. I went out to the mainland. I always wanted to come back to our Aina to be long, and I feel like the land was calling me back home. So Magnum PI gave me the opportunity to come here and work.
I'm imagining, because you are Polynesian, that may have put down some walls that sometimes the actors and actresses sometimes have. So you got to really talk story with them while you're working.
Yes, all the time. A lot of them, you know, it's just a little bit different kind of vibe because they'll be like, oh, who's this girl? She's from Hawaii. And then the union, I'm part of the TV and film union, and I was the first Polynesian to be in that union, which after I got in, they had said, you're the first one, but there were 2 more that came in after. That's from Hawaii.
You're
too.
not only Wahine and Mana Wahine, Polynesia. You are knocking down walls and breaking glass.
And that's my goal is to, I mean, from engineering to now hair and makeup, to break down the walls for our people.
You have been involved with motion picture, and the latest one has been Matrix 4, correct?
Yes, Matrix Resurrections.
And you've already done work on that, but at the time of this taping, you're getting prepared to go, and you've been rehired. Kind of explain why.
I'm being rehired because I have a department head, Flora Moody from the UK. My friend from San Francisco, she hired me to become their third hairstylist, and come about, they actually had me do Trinity, which is under the direction of my department head. What kind of cut, what kind of hairstyle. I did the cuts and color on set with Trinity. The blue-haired girl that you see is Jessica Henwick, which is one of our main characters. I can't really talk about what she does.
Right.
And then just so forth, Mr. Smith, the young Morpheus, and the list goes on and on as we go down the line. But it's when I'm touching people with that set, I always think about I want to come back home. I want to come back to Hawaii and just represent our people. You know, the creativiness and just everything about here and at home. But it's very creative. It's never been seen before. The color is like a very vibrant blue, which actually that derived. I mean, it's part of the story, but I really wanted to incorporate like the HPD blue because it's like I have family in HPD here. And I just wanted to like represent that blue, that color, but it's actually part of the story. But I was like, as a colorist, I was trying to go towards that blue, rich color.
What a cool career. And Billy's going to have much more on that coming up on his video live show that he does on Facebook every Friday. Let's get to some more fun news because this is what's up in New York City today. Today, workers installed more than 190 new Waterford crystal triangles featuring this year's Gift of Wisdom design on the Times Square New Year's Eve ball. The ball is covered with more than 2,600 crystal triangles. That's really vary in size and range in length from 4 3/4 inches to 5 3/4 inches per side. Beautiful. I've never gotten to see this myself. Always wanted to, but it might be too cold for me, to be honest. And keep this in mind, because of the spike in COVID cases, New York City is limiting the number of participants in this year's Big Times Square party to 15,000 people. Everyone has to wear masks. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for This Is Now. Mark Carpenter is going to be back at 4 on KHNL. You don't want to miss all the updates of the day. A lot going on. I wanted to leave you with this. There is preparations underway for this year's Rose Bowl. Here's some of that decorating going on.